Okay, we're back for of the Celestine prophecy. So now we're going to go into, we talked the afterlife and how we can communicate with them. We can resolve their issue with them. We can resolve ancestral karma with them. And they can now teach us things that they know, the spiritual truths they know without the deformation of the third dimension. But what happens to the soul when the soul is not in a physical body? It's got two options. Can either go to paradise, which is described as a place of light in front of the creator or in the presence of the creator, where you feel love, right? You have this feeling of peace and you have this feeling of contentment and what I would call it, being loved, accepted, warm, all of those things. That's the paradise part. Then, in some cases, some of the souls, when they pass away in, they have huge regrets or attachments, or they don't even know they're dead yet. They was so quick, or they can't believe they're dead, and therefore they actually can build a construct that makes them relive this thing over and over. The concept of hell on the show, TV show Lucifer, is actually the most accurate one I can think of. He tells them, says, none of the doors are locked. They can leave those cubes because their jail is like a cube where they're reliving their life constantly over and over again. And he says, the door's not locked, but he says they're punishing themselves because they're feeling guilty. It is their own guilt, their own fear, their own greed that's keeping them there, not me. Which is very interesting, but that's actually how it works. And so how do we pull these souls from these constant, and that's more a purgatory than anything else, a waiting place in between places, yes? So you're not in a physical body, but you're not in heaven, you're in the between. But it's a living hell to relive these things over and over, right? So purgatory and hell, they're all the same place. It's not a fun place to be. But who puts us there but nobody but ourselves? We're creating this own thing. How do we get out? We have to realize for ourselves, and we have to change. Or we, or the people from the soul group, can send energy for them to raise their vibration and change the reaction, and therefore change the looping of the story. Because that's what happens. The story keeps looping, right? So to change the loop, then you have to change the vibration, so you're making a different choice and finally getting out of there and going into the light. In mediumship, I'm also teaching people how to do this. How can you take the souls around you and just lift them into the light? How do you give them that energy that they need so that they can raise above their own Why are you laughing?
It's the story you told.
Okay. Then it's not like, what's the best way to avoid that scenario is to make sure that you always keep your vibration high. Release your regrets now. Release your resentment now. Release your attachment now. Right? Now is the time to do all this. What's important, why do I explain this part, is because I just said we can receive teaching from the other side. But we have to discern, who are they? Are they from the light or are they from the other place? And the discernment between the two is that if they're from the light, first of all, they'll never do things to you. They'll never ask you to do anything because they respect your free will. They'll never intervene unless you ask for their help. And the only thing they'll do for you is give you love. That's the only thing they can do. So if it's anything but that, then it's the other people. And if you want to clear that from your house or your work environment or from your space, then you'll have to learn that technique. The book explains how to do a lot of these things, and I also teach those classes if you feel more comfortable having a teacher. Then we go into groups. There's two types of group in the book. There's the group of evolution, the group that we form on the planet to help us grow together. Personally, I call them my tribe. And there's the soul group. So we'll start with the earth group. This earth group is usually about 7 people. 7 people that is going to be your group that you're evolving together. They may have absolutely nothing in common, but they'll come together for certain things. The groups that I create through my classes and the talks and everything else, that people will form links among themselves by coming and exchanging numbers and finding that they have things in common. And that's one of the purpose of why I don't just do live videos. And I actually want to have people present. There's a purpose to meeting people and knowing that they're like-minded and they believe in the same things, or they have the same ideas and they want to develop the same process. Yes? They're the group that will help you overcome fear and allow you to develop your vision of yourself, your higher self, your soul's purpose. They are there to remind you to stay focused on love. So one of these people in your group could be one of your child or one of your spouse. Yeah, like I said, it's your group. It doesn't mean that it's a group that constantly meets. Right? It can be, for me, it's been 7 people that don't know each other, don't connect at all, but it's my group. You understand what I mean? And then they're there to remind you to stay clear of resentment and to point out if you have jealousy, irritation, envy, bitterness, blame. If you have any of those things, those people are usually the one that are going to be honest with you and saying, yeah, well, you know, this is what you sound like right now. No, I don't. Yeah, I think so. I think you need to look in the mirror a little bit right now, right? This is who we are to those people and what they are to us. But they are there to try to help you evolve through your highest potential, through love, in order to eventually develop the brotherhood, sisterhood of humanity, right? So it goes beyond just your close family. You know, there's all these posts on Facebook that say you can't choose your brother or sister, but you can choose a friend and she can be your sister. This is what it means, right? These 7 people can be sometimes blood related, but sometimes they're not, but they will feel like brothers and sisters to you. Again, going back to this platonic love and not necessarily anything else. And they help us. Eventually, this group grows enough strength, enough power. And if you exchange what you're learning, right? The exchange of the energy, and you're doing this with your friends. And we did this in the middle of a trip in Peru. We all sat in the pool and we all played at sending energy to each other. And looking at the reaction of, oh, it's me, isn't it? It's me, right? And knowing that the person was already brighter, feeling happier, and they felt something in them, right? You can do this with friends. And so you can raise each other's awareness, you can raise each other's vibration in order for them to go back out in the world and do this as you're walking about. Spreading this new frequency and this higher energy to all your communities. And it doesn't take 90% of us to change things. It takes a very little percentage of us to actually do this right and this to work. So now, the soul group is the people that are souls. Some of them are past loved ones, like my grandmother was. Some others are people that you may have never have met in this lifetime. But they are part of your soul group, which means that from one life to the next, you're the same group of soul helping each other out. Right? So in one life, you're incarnated. In the next life, someone else is. And sometimes you're almost together, whatever, your soul group. This soul group, their job is to help you remember your soul's birth, your soul's vision, and it's there to remember your soul's purpose. They're usually part of a specific group. For example, they could be, if you're a journalist, your soul's group is going to be the gathering and transmission of information. So Gutenberg would have been part of that, right? Transmission of information. So there's a particular soul group that operates behind the scene for specific people whose role has always been to do that. Then there's the group of souls for the trades. Trades became technology, Right? If you think technology didn't exist, well, technically the wheel is technology. It is very basic technology, but nonetheless, a pump in a well is the basic. We think technology has to be microchipped, electronic, and plugged in, but no. Technology is any inventions or innovations that are acquired through thinking process, trial and error, and eventually working. This has existed for a long, long time. This soul group is about the transformation of technology. The other soul group is the teachers. The teachers group is the relaying of information and the growth of the people. Yes. Because it's one thing to transmit information, but if you don't learn how to use this information or read in the first place, the teachers play an essential role. We always have teachers and masters and apprentice. Yeah. So then there's the health and well-being circle, which is all the care and nurture that exists. So now we have doctors, we have nurses, but going back, we had medicinal people, we had the druids, we had, we're going back. It's always been there. Back to the original shamans that were treating the people of the tribe, the care and nurturer. Then there's the mediator group, someone always trying to bring things back to the middle, right? And with all the wars we've had through history, think about it. We always came back to peace. There were always people working behind the scene to cause the problems and people trying to mediate it. This group is very important. They're the one bringing us back to this middle line that we're supposed to be walking. Yeah? That's the neutral positive. That's a whole other talk, but nevertheless. And then there's the, I put them in a big bubble, spiritual guide, mystics, keeper of knowledge, tradition, and truth. So the people teaching the spiritual truths and guiding people in their evolution, spiritual evolution. Now, we're not talking about necessarily, well, I have to be careful here. It doesn't have to be a priest, or it doesn't have to be someone endowed by a church, right? Someone in your life could be a great influence in your own spiritual development, in finding that inner truth that is yours. So don't think that this necessarily relates, just like a teacher doesn't have to be in a school. Someone working, there's the people who develop the technologies, but there's the people who teach you how to use it. Those are the teachers. So you have teachers in every single part of the world. Teaching you how to sow seeds, teaching you how to write, or teaching you how to read, or teaching you how to be kind. Those are all teachers. Right? So you have to get out of the stereotype that they have to be in front of a classroom teaching a group of people. In the same way, a caregiver can be someone who's very, very loving and taking care of people. It has nothing to do with being a nurse or being in a senior's home. Right? Good. So these soul group, there's one, you belong to one of them. The group that you belong to means that it aligns with your soul's purpose. So ask yourself, which group do I belong to? You don't need an answer now. Please think about it, meditate about it, go to sleep asking the question, wake up with the answer. Right? This is where the intuition and the insight come into play. You have to ask the questions, but now you know what kind of questions to ask, which is awesome, because now you get all the answers that you need. And we're moving into the secret of Shambhala, which is the 11th insight. Okay? It was written in 1999, just before everything was supposed to blow up. And it's very interesting because in the storyline, it's there's a race going on of power struggle and things like that. Yes. But it's based on the Tibetan teaching of this place called Shambhala, an utopia where human living being live in compassion and love, in accordance to respect of nature and sacredness of nature, and being one with all. So everybody's equal, everybody's the same. That's the basic of it. Now, the story starts with the prayer field. Prayer field are really, really important for you guys to understand because they're your thoughts. So again, monitor your thoughts, because as you put energy behind yourself to power yourself up, are you wasting your time and energy, or are you allowing this energy to help you grow? So you're spending your time being angry about what happened 10 years ago, or you're learning about how to let that go and focus on the now. What did you learn from that? What's the life lesson you were supposed to gather? And are you moving from that into this life lesson, putting it and applying it to your everyday life? A lot of the book, they're telling the hero guy, which I don't know if they ever use a name for him. It's always I, because it's in the first person. But they keep reminding him, you're forgetting what you know. You're forgetting what you know. And it's true. It's true. And I'm the first one to which this happens to. I had to relearn this 3 times. You keep forgetting. You get carried away into something else, and you're forgetting that you know this stuff and what you're supposed to be doing. So don't think that, again, I'm judging anyone, because I admit it. I forgot. I got carried away with a career, carried away with being married, carried away with raising children. I didn't meditate anymore. I didn't do anything anymore. And then my whole life came crashing down. It's not surprising. Makes a lot of sense to me. So now I tend to remind myself. Don't want to forget this again. But in order for this to work, you have to go back to the basics. And so he explains the basics here of how to extend this prayer field. That's the whole book. So very importantly, our purpose on this planet is to develop or evolve a culture that is spiritual in all its aspects. All its aspects. So everything you do will be spiritually oriented. Now, how much of your day is spiritually oriented now? Some people have to think of it in the weekly thing because they go to church once a week, right? Some people say, well, I meditate every day. I do pray before my meals. I do express gratitude. Okay, so there's more of it in your life. But how much of it? And don't think that for there to be a spiritual life that you have to be like me. You could be a spiritual being of love and compassion and a spreading energy, even if you're working in an office or being a massage therapist. That has nothing to do with being a spiritual being. It's how you do it that makes that difference. So what is your intent behind what you're doing? Is your intent to get rich, or is your intent to share? Because the more you share, the more you will have. So the idea is, the most important thing is that you have to stay constantly conscious and alert. In French, the name of my business is called the Awakened Conscience. Why did I pick that name? Because that's exactly what it is. You are living most of your life, and the subconscious is taken over a lot of the time. This is when you're on autopilot, or you're like a drone. You're in traffic, you go to work, you go to groceries, you come home. You know, you're a drone, you're a robot. Consciousness, awakened consciousness means that, I have a moment here. There's 100 people in this SkyTrain. I will spread the light to 100 people right now. Because it's not costing you anything, and you're stuck in that subway anyway. Why not do it? This is being consciously awakened. You get to work. You spread the light as you're going to your desk or your little office, and then you're there, and every person that comes in, you take the time to greet them, to give them this light and this energy, because it costs you nothing. And you're raising all these people all day long. You see how the spiritual part, the awakened conscious part, is essential here. It makes the whole difference. So don't worry, because if you have a bad thought, it's going to collapse your prayer field. It's going to create, you're creating this energy, you're spreading this bubble, and the second that you're thinking, I wish they would trip and knock themselves out, it's not love anymore, and it collapses. It will not have any power behind it. So don't think that you can do the black magic part and send black woo-woo and woo-ju anywhere. No, it just collapses on you. So I've never been a believer of black magic. I'm sorry. Again, it only has as much power as a person believes it. I don't believe in it, so you can do whatever you want. It's just not going to happen. energy to be transmitted and to be given to something else has to be given in love. Otherwise, it just bounces back to you. So therefore, it's never going to go anywhere. So now, you're connecting, you're receiving the energy, you're building this energy, you're pushing this energy around you, you're radiating this light, you're radiating with intent of love. Yes? So far, it's simple. Yes? So, in order to maintain, which is the hardest part, and I believe is the next step, in order to maintain this, you need to be congruent in your life. What does that mean? It means that you have to make sure that you keep your energy high. So watching murder shows on TV, not going to help. Constantly swearing, not going to help. Eating the wrong food, not going to help. So you have to help yourself to stay high, which means you have to make choices that align with higher vibration energy. Yes? Good. And the other thing is that as you're sending this energy, your intent is for their highest good. Whatever that is, that's not your problem. It doesn't belong to you. It's theirs. So every time I work with someone, it's always for the highest good within divine's will. It's none of my business. And if it doesn't work, there's something in it for you. You have to learn. And, Creator, God, whatever you want to call it, thinks that the best way for you to learn is to be this way. Let's work on that. Let's figure out what the message is. Okay? So that part is called detachment. You have to do this without putting an agenda on it. Again, the agenda comes from the ego. The minute you put the agenda on, collapse. It has to be without ego. And for it to be no ego, it has to be from detachment. So, God, I'm good. The food, the best food for you is to grow your own food. And I know some people are going to say, I live in a condo. You could have potted plants, and instead of potted plants, it could be a tomato plant. It could be vegetables that you're growing out of potted plants. It actually works. It's a whole different story if you have animals and pets in the house, I understand. But for the summertime, if you have a balcony, you could grow some of your stuff. Your favorite vegetables, you could try. At least give it a try, right? You never know. You should eat what's called alkaline foods. Those are higher energy food. I'm not saying start changing your entire diet. I'm just saying if you can introduce these foods to your diet, it would be fantastic, because it will keep your vibration high. So those foods are usually the greener, fresher, and more alive ones. The fresh vegetables and juice of vegetables, leafy greens and sprouts and fruits. Not too sweet, but the avocado, grapefruit, tomato, and lemons are great. All right? So those are a great addition to your diet. Now, you should avoid pastry, flour, alcohol, coffee, and the sweeter fruits and meat. And I'm a culprit. I haven't given up on all the meat yet. So no one's perfect, but I'm working on it. I gave up on everything else. So could you limit the amount of meat that you're eating? Yes. Could you increase the amount of vegetables and fruit fresh that you're eating? Yes. Yeah. It takes a little longer. I agree. There's always the prep time. It's easier to buy a frozen bag of something and just toss it and steam it, whatever. However, the nutritive value, energetic value of it is usually pretty dim. So it's better to eat vegetables in season than to consistently eat certain vegetables, even though they're out of season, they're not fresh anymore. Yes? Now, some of you are going to say, I don't feel the synchronicity. I don't get these intuition. I don't get these gut feelings. Ask yourself, are you connecting? Are you receiving that energy? If you don't know how to do that, if this is not working for you, again, I encourage you to go for a Qigong, Tai Chi, anything that works with these energies to master this energy thing. Some people say, well, I don't see the energy. Yes, but some people feel it. We don't all have the same gifts. Some of us are more feelers, some of us are more seers, some of us are hearing. How do you hear energy? Well, you might not hear energy, but that's okay, because you'll hear messages. You'll actually hear words and you'll be guided. If I have the choice, quite honestly now, because when I was younger, I had the hearing, I had the feeling, but I didn't have the sight. I can tell you that it's much more practical to have the hearing than actually see it. Because you see an image, you're like, yeah, nice. What does that mean? I can have a million, a picture is 1,000 words. Oh, well, 1,000 words can be a lot of stuff, right? When you hear, go to this school, take this class, you're like, oh, okay, great. You know exactly where you're going. Yeah. So instead of getting like a picture of, I don't know, Douglas College, you're like, great. Now where do I go from there? Yes. So the answers come to you in many, many different forms. Now, are you the one insisting out of ego that it should come in a certain way? So for the feelers, they're like, well, how does this work? Well, someone offers you to go somewhere and you feel great, or they offer you and you feel nothing. You're feeling like, no, really don't feel it. Sorry, I don't want to go. And then are you ignoring that? And that's the most important part. How often do we dishonor the message we're getting? Like, honestly, I could blame a lot of things on my failed marriage, but the first thing I'm going to blame is myself. I knew better. Shouldn't have said yes. I wasn't, I was like, yeah, sure. That's pretty much how it was. I thought I was old, and I thought that it was my last chance, and that nobody else was lining up, and I might as well grab the occasion while I can, because I should be married, and I should do this, and I should do that, right? I explained that in my book. I don't blame anybody but myself. I had to forgive myself for being an idiot and believing that I had to do certain things because that's the way society is. I am defying society on all levels, I think. As far as what should be done and how should it be done at this point in my life. But there was a time where I wanted to fit in. There was a time where I just wanted to be like everybody else. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to, I wanted to belong. And oh my gosh, right? And then at one point I decided, when I had the fibromyalgia, I was excruciating pain, couldn't show up for work anymore. I'm like, you know what? Enough. I can't waste any more time on this. If you don't love me, get out. If you don't think I'm okay for you, then walk out. And if nobody loves me, I'll love myself. And that will be enough. And that is when my life changed for the better. I didn't end up alone. I ended up surrounded by wonderful people who loved me because I loved myself. And I found work that was motivating and that was passionate and changed my life for the better. Everything changed because who changed? Me. I finally changed the way I was seeing things and the way I was choosing my choices and how I was acting. I was no longer letting society, old society, dictate me how I should be. I should be me. And there should be a place for me in society. And there was, amazingly enough. But I had to believe it first. So, the energy intake, I do recommend you try one of these things, right? The Gikong, the quantum touch, the Reiki, anything that brings energy to the body. Do a little bit of research on the internet. Not one is better than the other, but pick one. Really, it's essential that you learn how to accept energy, how to bring energy in your body without having to take it from anybody else. You should start your morning with a calming yourself. So some people get out of bed and they're already like, right? I have to get to work. I have to do this. There's going to be traffic. Oh my God, did I bring the lunch? Your mind's already going a mile a minute. And it's worth it getting up a little bit earlier and focusing on yourself and saying, just for today. Those are the 5 principles of Reiki. There are also the principles are in Telos, which are 6 principles instead of 5, but the same idea. Just for today, I'll be love. Just for today, I'll be compassion. Just for today, I'll have gratitude. Just for today, I will go along my soul's purpose according to divine will. Just for today, I will act in all wisdom. It takes 5 minutes, but it changes the entire day that you're sitting about to do. Then, if you have time, it's great to start with either a moving meditation or maybe a little Tai Chi routine. something to get your body moving, or a quiet yoga. So not the strenuous muscle strengthening yoga, but the calming stretching yoga. So a few stretches just to get the body moving. Why do that? Because if you have blocked energy from being kinked in bed and not sleeping properly or whatever else, you're going to free your meridians and allow the energy to circulate better at the start of your day, right? Then yes. So the other thing that can help you grow your energy is to be with community like-minded people. Find people who think like you, who feel like you. And again, it doesn't mean you have to leave your family behind. It doesn't mean you have to abandon your children. It just means that you may have to find friends or participate in activities that are outside of your regular humdrum or general routine. It's funny because a lot of parents are, oh, well, my kids have soccer, my kids have this, my kids have that, and they're running around for the kids. It's all over the place for the kids, and then you're like, and for yourself? And I always get this dumbfounded look in their face going, well, there's no time for me. Well, maybe perhaps the kids need to do a little bit less. And right away, people think, oh, but that's so selfish. It is not selfish. It is important because the energy you bring in, you can then share with your children. You're helping the entire household. But if you keep neglecting yourself, all you're going to do is make yourself sick. And then you're not going to be there for anybody, and nobody's going to get to any activities, and everybody's going to be miserable. Yes? So finding like-minded people will reinforce the energy. It will allow you to... and these are all, again, platonic. I can't say this enough. So it's not about extramarital affairs, and it's not being, it's not about a swing group or anything like that. It's a spiritual thing. You're laughing, but I need to say this. In this group can be at a distance. We have a group of people working, helping someone who's receiving chemo. None of us are in the same room, but we all gather at the same day at the same time to send this energy to this person because we're supporting each other. We're the group. Yes? So this group doesn't have to be necessarily someone that lives right next door to you. It could be someone that you find on, well, most of them I find through my travels for myself, but don't think that it's someone that you have to see once a week. It's someone that you have to stay in touch with, but it's all about energy and spiritual connection. And you can do that. I do this with Messenger, Skype. I do this with FaceTime. And once in a while we get to meet in person. I try once a year. That's our goal, once a year to meet physically together. And the rest of the time, it's about exchanging energy, supporting each other spiritually, discussing ideas, being there for each other as we have an opening or an awareness developing and going, oh, listen, this has just happened to me. And I think, what do you think? Being supportive to one another. They're there to, most of the time, they're supposed to distract you. Actually, the opposite of distraction. They're supposed to keep you away from the distraction. And so keep you on your spiritual journey. Yes. Now, the children that we have. Do we all have children? No, not yet. Okay. For those of you who have children, the genes of the mother and the father unite precisely to give that child the tendencies and the talents they need to fulfill their purpose. So, niece, nephew, yes, good. Look at them and ask yourself, so why are they the way they are? What is that? What advantage does that give them? If they're struggling with food, there's something in it for them to eventually get to their soul's purpose. It is part of their journey. If it's something with they're extremely athletic, why are they athletic? What does that give them? Well, usually it makes them jocks, and which means that they get a lot of attention. What do a lot of athletes do now? They give back to communities, right? They're spokesperson for speaking up against things or for things. There's recently a TV movie producer that's opened up a center, because he makes millions of dollars, for a battered woman to go to as a transition house, right? In the area where he grew up, because he broke the silence, he broke the pattern, and he publicly said, my father was an alcoholic, he beat us regularly, my mother wanted to leave, but we had nowhere to go. So we were stuck, and the violence never ended. And so I couldn't protect my mother, but I want to protect all the other mothers out there. I can now help. I can. So his role, his soul's purpose was, sometimes, people are like, they couldn't link it because he's a big movie producer. Right, but that's how he got the money to open the center. He didn't forget what his soul's purpose was. It's always been in the back of his mind. I want to create this. I want to invent this. I want to build this. And so eventually he had enough money that he could do it. So your soul's purpose doesn't always have to be your job. Another guy, Matt Damon, who was doing things for water. These people are using their celebrity status because people will look at them and because people will listen to them. But at least they're using it to try and influence people to have better choices, better decisions. And this is how your soul's purpose may manifest. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your job. You may not get paid for that part. That might be the part that you're volunteering for. That might be the part where you're donating of your time. Like, for example, a dentist that I had spent 3 weeks or a month somewhere south. And he booked his entire staff, and they would go and do dental work. Well, of course, they spent 2 hours on the beach each day. Come on. But they still donated that time. They weren't getting paid for all the work they were doing. Right? That was their soul's purpose. So there's many, many ways into which you can enact your soul's purpose. And it doesn't have to be the one that you're actually getting paid for. So if we can get out of that box, get out of that mold, and really embraced all your qualities and talents, and make your children realize all their qualities and talents, to allow them to be in that specific role. Right? That's what we're here as parents, is to encourage your children in finding these answers. So we have to stop pushing, well, you should be this, you should be this, you should be this. Instead, and I tried this, like I said, I've been living this for 25 years and my son's 25. I always kept telling my son, so what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I really like cooking. I was like, really? Like, yeah, I really enjoy being in the kitchen. So would you like cooking lessons? Yeah, that'd be fun. But is that the only thing I offered him? No, he had writing lessons, he played soccer, he did other things. But he always came back to the cooking. When I was 25, he's an excellent chef. He's incredibly talented. And nobody pushed it on him. It was his choice that what he wants to do. Is he doing exactly what he wants? No, he has big plans, which is fantastic. He has these big plans and he believes that he can achieve them. He has no limitation. He has no sense of he can't do anything. He can't set his mind to. But it's done with love. Like, you don't have to achieve this next year. It's okay if it takes 2 years to get there. I'm okay with that. Right? Being supportive. Our role is to try and help them remember their birth vision. Try to remember yours first. But as you work through your birth vision and you see the clarity it's going to give you about your life and your purpose, you will want to give that to your children. And it's something that he's done, right? And this is where I can say it works, because they were my guinea pigs, right? My 3 kids. It works. And it takes a lot of removing your own ego of wanting to say, well, my son, my son's a doctor. My son, whatever. I've never been like that, so it's not my language. But some people are like that. They're living their dream through their children, right? They want to say, well, look, I achieved a great thing because look at what my children achieve, and without me, this would have never happened, right? If you get the ego out of the way and you're just specifically giving them the energy to be the best they can be at whatever it is they want to be, then you see these children just exponentially open and evolve to possibilities you would have never even thought of. That's inspiration. That's the higher self. So this new generation's role, and you can listen to the talk on the new children, is to unify us through eliminating all religion and making only a spiritual truth. The spiritual truth is your personal truth. Therefore, the last thing about the secret of Shambhala is the presence of angels. In the book, they're called Dakinis. They're considered your guardian angel, so your own personal angel that's with you. This is across the globe in every single culture. So they're there to make us feel safe. They're there to protect us. They're there to guard us, but they can't do anything unless we ask them to do so. In order to ask them to do so, we need to recognize that they exist, first off, and then ask them. They respect the free will. So therefore, if you want to jump off of a building, they'll let you jump off the building. Not because they don't love you, but because they can't stop you. Their role is, if you're there saying, help me, because I don't want to jump off the building, but I'm discouraged right now, you know, they will find someone to get you. They will intervene. This last hour, this 11th hour, it's called, if you actually ask for the help will come. And they're the one making the phone ring at the last minute. They're the one who are the friends stopping by. I don't know. I was just in the area and I just decided to stop by. And like, oh, wow, you couldn't have come at a better time. For me, it comes in the forms of messages and cards in the mail, and I get them all the time. Just a little bit of a nudge going, keep on going, you're doing great, you're loved, you're not alone, come on. You know, a lot of my work is lonely work. I'm always by myself all the time. So if I don't have a little bit of outside motivation once in a while, it does get, what do you call it? Like, bleh. I don't have the word for it, but you know, you just get to a point where you're just like, does anybody care about what this is? This is so much work, right? And then the message will pop up. Oh, thank you so much. And you're like, oh yeah, actually it does matter. And that's all I need, just to keep me back on track, right? So they will amplify your prayer field. So if your intent is good, and let's say you're praying for someone else, and you're asking them to carry all this energy for you, they will. So they're at your disposal, not just to protect you, but also emphasize what you're trying to do, the good that you're doing for others. They're also your helpers in that. And there we are. And so realize your energy field is real, and it flows in front of you and affects the entire world. The effect is it affects everyone, every single person you touch, but also your environment. So the plants and nature where you're walking. The higher energy is easier to connect to if you see the beauty around you. So if you live in chaos, I encourage you to clean up and clear up the space and make it beautiful. Beautiful does not mean expensive things all over the place. It just means, sometimes it just means clean. It just means organized. And now we have its own beauty, especially if you live in chaos for a while. The field can be expanded before you, or even to a different place. So you don't need to see the person to send that energy to that person. Always encourage this energy to be for the highest good of the person in order for them to have an intuition or a synchronicity or something to wake them up and guide them in what they're doing. We must remain anchored. We have to continuously feed this field of energy. Therefore, our choices of music, activities, food, all influence that energy field. You have to be detached from the outcome. And if something bad seems bad happens, like an illness, a job loss, or the loss of a loved one, or end of a relationship, try to see the silver lining. There's something better coming. You're just not seeing it just yet. So ask yourself, what is it? Does this mean it's time for me to go in a new direction? Is it something I'll meet somebody better for me? Is it that I'm to be my own employer, or I'll get a better job somewhere else, or it's time for me to move? Sometimes people feel they're stuck because they can't go anywhere because that's where their work is. Okay, so where have you been wanting to go? Now's the time. Move. Yes? And most of all, have faith. Faith is the key. If you believe your intent is pure and it's guided by love, if you believe it will happen, it will happen. And I'm at the point where I can manifest either or. Even if it's for a split second, watch what you're wishing for. Wish for the best for everyone. Stay in this love, compassion. Yes, if you need to forgive someone, that's what the Akashic Record class is for. Come and take it. I'll explain it all in detail so you can free yourself from all these things and move forward with your life. Yes? Good. Finally, he read the last book, this one. This one's the French one. It's the pocket form. The 12 Insight. The 12 Insight is basically everything he's taught before, but in a new greater depth than he ever approached before. Yes, you have to maintain the synchronicity. So now, we've heard this enough. You need to stay connected. You need to have the energy. You need to bring this energy in you all the time. To have this energy is what's going to guide you and lead you to every other step of your journey. The step in the journey is you have to know your inner truth. This is where you have to ask yourself your questions. You have to do your own personal search. You have to look at your life history. You have to look at your parents. You have to look at what you feel were mistakes. Why did you think they were mistakes? What did you learn from these lessons? Where is this taking you? Okay? You have to find your authentic self through all this. So you have to stop thinking that you have to be a certain way because somebody told you to be that way. What is it you want to be? What resonates with you? So you want to write a book. Great. What inspires you to write that book? Write all these things down. Because on the days that you doubt yourself, it's nice to have it up there. I'm doing this because, and I've written 6 books, so I know, and one of them took 4 years. So the motivation required to stay with it and to remind yourself, this is what I'm doing it for. Someone going to school, I know I went to university. I had 1 kid, and I was working 2 jobs to keep up with every day. Once in a while, I need to remember, why am I doing this for? You need to be reminded sometime. Don't be like me and forget everything and then become the robot for a while and then wake up again. And you don't need that. And this is where your group, remember this group of people, your like-minded people are there for having conversations, to keep you motivated, to keep reminding you to keep going. It also is important to then become aware of the laws that are ruling you, the laws of karma, the laws of the universe, the law of truth, and the law of service. Those are the 4 laws that you need to be conscientious of because they are the ones guiding your life. So if things are not going quite your way, you might want to look up at these 4 laws. But these are also separate and individual talks, so I'm not going to dwell into them here. All this brings you to a deeper divine connection with yourself. Meaning that if you recognize there's a divinity inside of you, your soul is a divine spark of God. And if that's inside of you, then you should treat your body as a temple. And this doesn't mean that you have to excessively exercise. That's not treating your body as a temple. You should do things in all moderations. That is treating your body as a temple, keeping it clean, keeping it healthy, keeping it, those are the things that I'm talking about here. So I'm not saying everybody should get a membership at the gym tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. I don't even go to the gym. What I'm saying is that, are you treating it with respect? Are you honoring it? Right? In the way that you display it, that you touch it, that you feed it, that you treat it. Okay. Then developing this feeling, this is the most fun part, the feeling of love, protection, and guidance. We do this when I take spiritual trips with people because I take them out of their everyday life and then they're with me in a specific area right? Those of you who came on trips. And because you're pulled away from everything else, and then you're immersed in my little world, then I live according to these principles with you for a week. So that it's a trip to Ireland or the trip to Peru or the trip to Shasta or whatever else we're going to. I make you enter this bubble where you feel love 24/7, where you feel completely guided and you're entirely feeling safe. There's no moment during that time that anybody ever doubted that was the case. And so once you know this feeling, you want to hold on to it. But it's hard if you've never known that feeling. And like I said, no, I don't come from a hippie home where everybody sang Kumbaya. It wasn't the case. I had to learn this. But now I know what this feels like, and I'm sharing as much as I can with everybody. This feeling can be owned. It can be yours. And you're going to achieve that by this alignment I'm talking about with the food and the distractions, avoiding the distractions and keeping your vibration as high as you can. Yes? In that space, you know nothing bad's going to happen. Your doctor calls you back. You don't go to, oh my God, something's wrong. You just, you just call back. There's nothing that will kick you off of this bubble. Nothing can touch you anymore. It's a beautiful place. It's worth all the money in the world. I know a lot of rich people that probably pay me millions if they know I can do this for them. And you've experienced it every time, yeah? Yeah. Every time. But there's no TV, there's no phones, there's nothing but nature and me and meditation and connecting and sharing energies in different settings. So they've done it in the pool in public, and they've done it. I proved to them it's possible. Anywhere you are in the world, this is a possible feat. It requires so little of you, except the pure intent of doing so. And I guess because no friends is going to walk in because they're in the middle of Peru, it's okay. This group of understanding that you develop with these people is that they understand you and they don't judge you. So anything is possible. If you're finally rid of judgment, imagine that. You're no longer afraid that anybody's going to judge what you're doing. Imagine the freedom of that. Yes? That looks like a band goes into a restaurant in Peru and starts singing, and I just got up and I started dancing. And everybody's at the table going, oh my God. And I'm like, come on, you can all do this. Well, of course, I'm the only one who had enough guts to do it, but I'm dancing and I'm having a great time. And I sat down and I held a breath and I just had a great time. And I'm like, I don't understand why you guys didn't join in this. You'll never see these people again. And no one here would judge you. They learned great lessons. That's what a group of understanding is. A group that supports you, loves you, and accepts you for who you are. So I was crazy for a long time, and now I'm adorable. I don't know. How would you describe me now? I like to think I'm adorable now. I'm very childlike in a way. I'm very enthusiastic. I'm very spur of the moment. I have a lot of energy, but how would you?
Younger.
Oh, thank you. Younger. What do you think? You know me.
Enthusiastic's a good word.
Yeah. Enthusiastic's a good word. But people are expecting the unexpected with me around. They don't have a mold that I fit in. They've given up on the mold, and but it's Sonia. It's usually the it's usually the shoulder rising, going, yeah, it's her. She's true to herself. Yes. So when's the last time you've been true to yourself? When's the last time that you could say, I feel like laughing right now. I feel like, I feel like crying right now. This was a great lesson from my daughter-in-law. We went to the movie theater and we watched A Dog's Life. Dog's Life? Yeah. Anyway, we just had lost our dog. We're watching this movie with this dog and the dog keeps dying. And I'm like, oh, gosh. And he dies again and again. And me and my son are just bawling and tossing the Kleenex. And she's dead quiet on the other side. And I'm like, so we're trying to a little bit justify it for her, because I imagine this was quite a cultural shock that both us in public are crying like this, and him being a guy and all that. And I said, if you'd known the dog, she was amazing. She was with us for 12 years. So she's like, no, actually, she said, I'm completely amazed that you had enough courage to cry, because she's like, I've been fighting it the whole movie. And I was like, oh, so, well, it's not like you could have fit it right in. And she's like, but I kept fighting this. You don't cry in public. It's unbecoming. And I was like, oh, girl, you're with us now. Don't worry about it. We ain't going to judge you. So when did you honor those feelings? Even if it's just a movie. It's a great way to unload, to go to a movie. Sometimes I need to get a good cry on. I just put the saddest thing I can find, and I just cry, and it finally gets out. And it's one of my ways to tap into it and just release it. Yeah. And the same way, if I'm feeling really happy and I'm alone because I'm in a hotel room somewhere in the middle of the world, lost, I'll put something really funny and I'll just laugh out loud. And literally do it, not just put LOL. But you have to connect. Yes? Yes. Okay, so this group on understanding are those people that are helping you be yourself, be your truthful self. And outside of any judgment, you're free to finally be who you are, all that you are. And the beauty, because you're more beautiful when you are your true self, when you're not hiding. Because when you're hiding, you're wearing masks. So if you stop hiding in your true self, you will look younger. I actually look younger now than I did 15 years ago. I look great. I'm loving myself. This group helps you feel the connectedness. And if you listen to the talk on the laws of the universe, I explained that we're basically made of energy, and our energy is bigger than our physical body. And right now, there's all of us touching this energy is connected in us. But we're connected through the fabric of the universe, which is the plant's energy, nature's energy, and everything else moving around us. And so in the end, we're like this very, very complicated spider web all around the planet. And this gold thread is linking all of us together. Yes. Great. Which takes me to listening. We have to listen to each other. This isn't just about, well, in this case, me talking all the time. Sometimes it's about listening. It's about observing. Spending some time in neutral. Again, I said in the morning, take some time. During the day, take some time. Don't think that you have to fill every silence. Don't think that you have to fill every minute of every day with something. If you will come to appreciate those quiet times, you will come, and this is something that usually people get after they reach over 45, I would say. Before then, it's go, 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 go. Yeah, I'm bored. You've been sitting for like 30 seconds. I'm bored. How could you be bored? This is my kids, by the way, right? And I'm like, you're bored. Yes, great. Okay, you can pull the weeds out of the garden. You can do the dishes. You can wash the toilet. My car could use a good vacuum. No, that's not what I want to do. So, well, don't come and tell me you're bored then. Yes? They don't appreciate the fact that they actually have time. But are we taking the time to teach them what to do with that time? No, because we're just like them. We're go, 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 go. Yes? It's a matter of learning. It's apprenticeship of spiritual way of life. They too need to be taught. So we have to learn it ourselves. We had a great responsibility to our children to learn of these things, to apply it to themselves. And they'll be thankful for it. They might not see it right away because they weren't necessarily brought up from age 1 into this. But as we're changing and they start benefiting from those changes, they will be grateful. They will incorporate this little by little. I mean, my son's 25 and he's finally starting to, he picked a few things and now, he's doing them. And I'm like, I can see it. You're doing it, It's coming together. Yeah. So the observation part is also, if you have a question, should I move? You could either have that question. I asked that question when I went to bed. Where should I move? I knew I had to move. I knew I was moving because of my job. They got transferred to new places. So I had no say in it. But I would always ask, so what's the next house? What does it look like? And I always got a very clear image of the house. I always knew which house to buy. Always turned out there was only one on the market that fit my requirements anyway, and it was always the same house I'd seen in the dream. So, universe was working with me there. But you can ask questions and you will get the answers. And if you're having a hard time getting the answers, you can try and imagine, okay, so if I were to move to this house, and see if you can see yourself move, and you can see getting into the house, and you see unpacking, and you see being happy, or you're in the moving truck but you can't get there. That means that might not be the best choice. So then you better look for something else. That's another way of getting answers. Okay? Yes. The next bit is this: staying connected is, for me anyway, it's always been to go to my higher self and then go to creator. That's always been the lineup of the energy. I always go through my higher self first and then go to creator. This will help you stay out of ego. And at the same time, the soul it's called a soul infused personality instead of an ego personality. The soul infused has no ego. So everything that you're doing, you're not doing to better yourself. You're not doing to get rewards. You're not going to public acknowledgement. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And when they say the right thing to do is not always the easy thing to do, it's true, right? Sometimes, man, the cost is high, but it's the right thing to do. And I can assure you, in my life, every time I had to do the right thing at a very, very high cost to myself, I always got tenfold back. But I did it because it was the right thing to do. And in the end, I didn't pay anything. I got rewarded. But I never did it in the first place to be rewarded. I did it because it was the right thing to do. That was the motivating factor. That was the intent. So keep acting in what's the better, the right thing to do. And keep your intents pure, being soul infused, and the energy will reward you. You will be guided to a better thing. You will be protected. This is the laws of the universe. It all works together. And then there's the sacredness of nature. Nature is the key. We are humans right now. We are soul all the time, but you're humans right now. And as humans, you're on the third dimensional of this planet. And therefore, you need to connect to this planet to have this human experience. If you think that you can just live in a spiritual world, sure, but that won't work if you're a human. Yeah, that's the difficulty of being human. Is you have to recognize that you're a spiritual being, that you're a soul, but you also have to do it while you're having this human experience. So you need to get in touch with nature. You need to be able to have nature surround you. So if you don't have nature nearby, you always have a park. You always have some green space, or you have water, or get away to it once in a while. You need to stay connected. At the very least, you should have at least one plant in the house. Yes, to connect to these energies. In the 12th prophecy, they do much more. They go into Sedona mountains. They go into camping. They go into realizing the beauty. And it's interesting because you think in the desert, the first idea you get of a desert is like, there's the beauty there. And I've lived near the desert, and I'm like, wow, I go for walks, and in the morning, the little cactuses have flowers, and it had its own beauty. Yeah, I'm a mountain girl, so I like to be near mountains. And each mountain has an energy, a persona to itself. And just staring at, you don't even have to climb the mountain. You can just sit there and just look at it and communicate with the essence of it, with this consciousness of it, and linking with these energies. These are all ways to increase your connectedness to spirit, to your higher self, and to the rest of the planet. True nature, it's the connection that you might finally see how we're all connected. So spend some time in nature. Yes, I talked about that already. We're doing good. Sorry for those on podcast. So we are souls. We are connected. We're all made of the same fabric of the universe. We are to be eventually united in a spiritual experience, and we're consciously aware we need to be consciously aware to be able to access our authentic divine self that is inside of us. And in order to do that, we'll develop the middle world, the neutral positive. Each religion around the world is a supplement to the other, which means that no religion is the one true path. They all have truths, but they're all missing parts. And we need to see the missing parts and observing and learning from other religion, which is where the unity will come from. Yes. They now have a new word for it, which is kind of cool. It's called omnimism. It's every religion that in every religion, the experience of God is the same. It's the energy of love and safety and guidance. That's omnimism. And it's also the freedom for individual to develop their own spiritual path, their own unique path. Interestingly enough, the Dalai Lama teaches us about Kalachakra. Kalachakra is devoted to the integration of all religions, truth, to a synthesis of all the religion. That is Kalachakra. So it already exists. It's been existing for a very long time. But Tibet was closed to the outside world until 1950. So until 1950, we didn't even know. So it's kind of nice. And this is one of those silver lining things. I like to, and we can only see with time and distance. If China had never invaded Tibet and chased the Dalai Lama out, we would have never learned these things. There's a lot of things that came about because he was out of Tibet, and he's now teaching the entire world. So at first we're thinking it's absolutely horrible, and you're like, yes. However, it brought something incredible to the world. Now, is it time for Tibet to recover? Yes. As long as they understand that the rest of the world needs to receive the teaching. Yes. So the Judaism, their truth is that we all have a mission. The Christianity is the love and repentance is the key, right? If you look at the teaching of Jesus, he's teaching us, treat each other as you want to be treated. Love each other. Love thy enemy, right? It's about forgiveness, about compassion. Islam is about obedience to divine will. One of the sayings that they say is God's willing. Every time you say, oh, I'm going to go on a trip, God's willing. It's part of their natural form of speaking. But they realize that it has to be according to divine will. So they're the one religion that gets that really clearly. The native cultures accentuate the way living close to nature is important, and honoring the ancestors is important, right? Because it's part of their culture to talk to the departed ones and assist them in going to the light. It's not foreign at all to them. That's their truth. They're bringing something important to the ball game as well. The Buddhism is all about compassion and the inner divine self. So that you consider it a religion or a way of life or whatever you want to call it, they all hold some truth. And we need to gather all these truths together, all their biggest strength, and see how it all fits. Now, do the other religion not talk about love? Yes, some of them do. But it's usually the more mysterious or more remote, form of that religion. Just like in the Judaism, there's the brain fart, the secret teaching of the Kabbalah. In Christianity, they're called the Gnostics, the Gnostic Gospels. They all of these branches have more remote teachings that are not mainstream. Usually it's because they weren't transformed, but they were safeguarded for us to read about. So if you're looking for the truth is in every single culture around the world. If it's everywhere, it's because it was truth. before it was transformed. Everybody believes in prayer. Now, that you have to pray in a certain direction or a certain time of the day or in a certain fashion, that came later. But the prayer, that's for real. You understand what I mean? Right? You have to go back to the truth. In all of them, they believe that 144,000 is a magical number. Most of them are saying the true believers, there'll be 144,000. And now imagine there's 7 billion people on Earth right now. What does that mean? James Redfield explains that those are the people that actually will live according to these principles, according to the laws of truth, the law of universe, the laws of karma. And by doing so and sharing the energy with others, they will help. We need 144,000 people. It's not a lot to shift the entire planet into this new consciousness. And in the calendar of the Maya, it talks about in 2012. Now, this book was written in 2011. 2012, there will be a change. Some people thought, again, it's the end of the world. There will always be these people who are so ready to jump into fear and grab as many as they can with them, as if that was a lifeboat. Yes? But they're jumping a completely safe ship to go off in this little canoe in the middle of the ocean. Why? They have no faith. But it's not the end of the world. As we can see, we're in 2019, 7 years later. It's a new world. It's the end of the old world and a new world. This new world, this new awareness, it's a new way of living. That's all it is. Living in this peace energy and this ability to collaborate together and to live with together beyond our differences. As brothers and sisters of the world. That's what it is. Yes? So I encourage you to read the books and explore the experimental guides. Of course, I make no money off of this, but people, I'm recommending it because it's an excellent tool. There's one for the 9th prophecy and there's one for the 10th prophecy. So there's 2 experimental guides to work with. And the Celestine Vision is also a workbook that you can work with. Exercises and a deeper understanding of history and how we are affected by it all. So I recommend that you might want a energy form of work for, those would be great tools. So yoga, Tai Chi, Reiki, healing touch, Qigong, all of those modalities. One of them, I'm not saying all of them, but at least one of them. Meditation and for connection and walk in natures. And if you're interested in starting to work with the other side, there's mediumship. If you need to let go of all these negative feelings of resentment, jealousy, and everything else, Akashic Records is a great class. I think the course to be one with the world would be a shamanic course. So starting to work from a basic of unity and of oneness and connectedness. And so this ends part 2 of our talk. And we will thank all of you listeners. And we will let you go. And we'll see you next week for the Trinity talk.